Konnichiwa! I'm Alex with Lexico Moto Gymkhana. Welcome back for another lesson in the Moto Gymkhana Setup Series videos. Now this is going to be similar to the previous video. We're going to have two different topics in one video, two for one video. And we're going to get started by talking about how to prepare for crashes. Now, especially when you're first starting out riding Moto Gymkhana, we're going to be crashing. We're going to be falling over a lot. And one of the big concerns is damage to our motorcycle. Now, when we damage our motorcycle, this can be costly to repair and time consuming. And in my opinion, this is one of the things that keeps people from wanting to ride Moto Gymkhana is concerns about damage to the motorcycle. The good news is that we are crashing at relatively slower speeds, so injuries to the body is going to be minimal. But we are still concerned about damage to the motorcycle. So for this reason, crash protection is going to be important for Moto Gymkhana. So let's talk about a few ways that we can protect our motorcycle during crashes. One option is going to be frame sliders. Now the good news about frame sliders is that they're very common and easy to find for most motorcycles, and they're relatively cheap. But the problem with frame sliders is that usually when it comes to protection, they're very minimalist, they can bend very easily, and you're still going to end up with damage to the motorcycle. Now, a step up from frame sliders are going to be crash bars. These are going to be a little bit sturdier and have a little bit more protection to them. The downside with typical crash bars that you find online is that they're going to be heavier, and you're going to be adding weight to the motorcycle, affecting your power to weight ratio. And another option above crash bars are going to be stunt cages. And stunt cages are going to be offering a little bit more protection, but once again, they are bulky, they are heavier, so it doesn't really help our power to weight ratio. Now, frame sliders, crash bars, and stunt cages are all going to be excellent options and infinitely better than not having anything on your motorcycle at all. But there is one other option that is the best option of all, and that's going to be Sakta Sport Bumpers. This is a company out of Japan that makes Moto Gymkhana specific crash bars for motorcycles. They are very sturdy. They are very lightweight. The only downside is that they're a little bit on the pricey side compared to frame sliders and some other crash bars. But if you're serious about Moto Gymkhana, I strongly recommend that you check out their website and check out to see if they have anything available for your motorcycle. If they don't have anything listed, try emailing them directly and see if they can make something custom for your motorcycle. And for some bikes, they also have some sport bumpers available for the rear of the motorcycle as well, so you can get some front protection and some rear protection for some motorcycles. Now, besides the crash bars, frame sliders, the sport bumpers, and crash cages, we have some other options for bike protection as well. You can buy yourself some lever guards. Lever guards are, of course, going to protect your lever controls. And in some situations, when you can't find good crash bars for your motorcycle, like with my KLX 300, SSB actually doesn't make bars for my bike. So I just am using just the lever guards, and I did have a crash, and those lever guards did just the trick, prevented any serious damage to the motorcycle. So lever guards are a good option as well. And you can also buy some sliders for the exhaust. All right, you can buy some sliders that wrap around your exhaust. So in case you fall on the exhaust side of the motorcycle, your exhaust isn't going to get all scratched up and damaged. Some companies that make these types of sliders would be RNG Racing, and also, once again, SSB Japan makes some of those components for some motorcycles. Now, if you really can't find anything online for your motorcycle, your last effort, your last option should be to look online for anyone in your area that makes custom bars. Sometimes you can contact the local police department if they have motorcycle officers, And many times those motorcycle police officers have certain crash bars that are sturdy and lightweight on their motorcycles. Try to find out who made those bars for the police. And now we're going to move to the next topic of this video, which is ergonomics. Now, when we're seated on the motorcycle with the correct ergonomics, correct body position, this is going to, of course, help us feel more comfortable for a longer period of time. But it's also going to help us be more accurate with the inputs that we're putting into the motorcycle. When our handlebars, our levers, our foot pedals are all adjusted correctly, this is going to put us in just the right position to be accurate with the controls. So if you haven't done so already, you want to make sure that all your controls are set up ergonomically correct with the right amount of slack in the controls. You don't want too much slack or too little. Now, there's already way too many videos out there on YouTube about this topic, so I don't feel like I need to cover this stuff anymore. So I want to talk more about how our ergonomic position is going to affect the handling of the motorcycle. Now, in level 2, we started to discuss that many of the techniques have to do with the way that the weight of the rider and the motorcycle shifts front to back. Those front to back movements of weight are going to change the geometry of the motorcycle. And when the geometry changes in just the right way at just the right time, this is going to assist us with turning the motorcycle. Now, many of these weight changes, these geometry changes, are going to happen by what we're doing with the throttle and brakes and the timing of it all. But some of the weight change and geometry change comes from what we're doing with our body weight. Once again, if we remember back in level 2, we saw an example of when we lean forward in the seat with our upper body, this is actually going to widen our line during tight turns. And if we shift our upper body backwards during a tight turn, this tightens up our line. And so, we want to be sitting in a position that is going to allow us to easily and smoothly manipulate our weight back and forth to assist with these motorcycle geometry changes. Generally in Moto Gymkhana, we're putting a little bit more priority on making those tight turns. And so we are usually going to be sitting a little bit further back in the seat, shifting our weight onto the rear tire and the rear suspension. And this is especially going to help with our tight turns during Moto Gymkhana. Now, there are a few modifications that we can make to our motorcycle that can assist with getting our body in just the right position to be able to manipulate our weight. Let's start with the motorcycle's seat. Now, what we can do to our seats is we can take it to an upholsterer and we can have them shave foam off of the seat. Now, many times our seats are in a shape that kind of pushes our weight forward a little bit. This is not the best option for Moto Gymkhana. So when we shave foam off of the seat, we can make the seat a little bit flatter, which doesn't push us forward anymore and allows us to be able to sit with our weight a little bit shifted backwards. Shaving foam off of the seat will also allow your body to sit lower in the seat, and this lowers the center of mass of the bike and the rider. When your bike is feeling top heavy, it makes the handling feel a little bit slower and you don't feel as balanced on the motorcycle. When your center of mass is lower, it helps you feel more balanced and makes the handling feel lighter. And also, when you shave off that foam off of your seat, it allows your butt to sit closer to the hard plastic part of the seat at the very bottom, which allows you to receive feedback a little bit more easily through the seat, so you have better feel for what's going on at the tires and the ground. Now, if you have a seat that's already really uncomfortable, maybe it's narrow and already kind of hard, then what you could do is shave off as much foam as you can, cut out a square and insert a gel pad to make the seat a little bit more comfortable for longer riding sessions. I have experience doing that with all my motorcycles, and I really like how it feels, and it's very comfortable. I could ride all day. Now, another thing that we can do to our motorcycles is adjust our handlebar position. This isn't really a big deal for taller riders that have really long arms, but if you're a shorter rider like me and you've got short arms, then adding some handlebar risers could help you to get the handlebars swept a little bit further back in just the right position. I usually put ROX pivot risers on my motorcycles to get my handlebar position just right, especially on my R1200 GS. It was especially helpful because that's a very large bike made by most likely very large German people. And for smaller riders, the risers are just right for handlebar position. Now, if you have a sport bike, something that you might want to strongly consider is doing a handlebar conversion to your motorcycle like I did with my Ninja 300. On my Ninja 300, I did the handlebar conversion and I coupled that with some ROX pivot risers, and it left the handlebar position just right. Now, this handlebar conversion might be a little bit pricey because not only do you have to pay for the handlebar, but you also have to pay for the handlebar clamps. You have to pay for longer clutch cable, throttle cable, and brake lines. And you have to pay to have someone do it all. But in my opinion, this cost is worth it if you've got a sport bike with clip-on handlebars. If you get a handlebar conversion, not only is it going to allow you to get your body weight just in the right position to tighten up your turns, but it's also going to give you more leverage at the handlebars as compared to clip-on style bars. And during full lock turns, your hands are going to be in a much more comfortable position to work the controls. And finally, we're going to talk about foot pegs. Now, for most sport-oriented road bikes, ground clearance is not going to be an issue. You probably have more than enough ground clearance. But if you're constantly scraping the foot pegs during your tight turns, you might have to look into getting some foot pegs that are a little bit higher. Sometimes you can find some rear sets that are a little bit higher, giving you a little bit more ground clearance. And if your foot pegs came with those little rubber pads on the top where you place the foot, you might want to think about getting rid of those. When you get rid of those rubber pads and you're putting your foot on the metal part, it's going to allow you to feel a little bit better, get more feedback from the foot peg. And when you remove those rubber pads, it allows you to flatten out the angle of your foot, which allows you to raise where you're adjusting your rear brake pedal and your shift lever. And when you adjust those a little bit higher, that also gives you a little bit more ground clearance. So, riders, once again, remember that motorcycle geometry is going to affect our handling. And a lot of those geometry changes come from what we're doing with our body weight, what we're doing with the brakes and throttle, but it also comes from how we set up our suspension. And that is going to be the topic of the next video. So I will see you all there. Until then, arigato and peace.